In 1917, the Russian Imperial family owned 56 jeweled eggs worth millions. By 1930, almost half had vanished into private collections across Europe and America, and nobody's entirely sure why. A Fabergé didn't invent the egg, he weaponized it. Between 1885 and 1917, the St. Petersburg jeweler created 56 imperial Easter eggs for the Romanov dynasty, each one a mechanical marvel, stuffed with surprises costing what a mansion would cost today. The Tsar bought them. The Dowager Empress bought them. They were the ultimate flex of accumulated wealth, useless, gorgeous, impossible to replicate. Then revolution happened. Here's the problem nobody wants to say aloud. The Bolsheviks didn't destroy the eggs, they sold them. When you're consolidating power after a revolution, you need hard currency, lots of it. The Soviet government, broke and desperate, began liquidating the imperial collection. But selling a Fabergé egg on the black market in 1920s Europe isn't like selling a painting. It's conspicuous, it's trackable. So what happened next? The eggs scattered. Some went to wealthy American collectors, the Arm & Hammer family bought several. Others vanished into European private vaults. By the 1930s, curators and historians couldn't account for roughly 30 of the original 56. Not lost, not destroyed, untracked. This wasn't carelessness. Look at the incentives. If you owned a stolen imperial egg, you didn't advertise it. You kept it quiet, passed it to heirs, waited decades. The math gets interesting. A Fabergé egg in 1917 cost roughly 5,000 to 10,000 rubles, equivalent to a year's salary for a skilled worker. Adjusted for inflation and rarity, that's $2 to $4 million per egg in today's money. 30 missing eggs, you're talking about $60 to $120 million in vanished imperial property. That's not a footnote. That's a financial crime spanning continents, but here's where the story gets murky. Some eggs did resurface. In 1953, the Soviet government sold an egg to an American collector through a London dealer. In 1997, another egg appeared at a Christie's auction. These weren't accidents. They were strategic sales, the Soviets selling off assets when they needed cash, using middlemen to obscure the trail. The question isn't whether the eggs existed. The question is who owned them at each moment. The Tsar owned them, then the Bolsheviks owned them, then private collectors owned them, then museums owned some of them, and some, still privately owned, still not on any official registry. That's the real mystery, not where they went, but who's been paying to keep them hidden. Fabergé eggs became a proxy for something larger, the transfer of wealth from the fallen aristocracy to the new money class. A Russian nobleman couldn't display his imperial egg without drawing suspicion. A Wall Street banker could. A London gallery owner could. The eggs weren't just artifacts, they were portable proof of fortune, laundered through dealers and auctions until their origins became plausibly deniable. The Soviet Union itself became complicit in the cover-up. Why? Because every egg they sold generated foreign currency. Every private collector who bought one paid hard cash. The government had no incentive to track the eggs or recover them. They had every incentive to keep selling them quietly, moving them through front dealers, letting the money flow in. By the 1960s and 1970s, the trail had gone cold. Some eggs were in museums, properly documented, publicly known. Others were in private collections, their ownership a matter of family record. And some had simply vanished from any traceable history. Not because they were destroyed, but because the people who owned them had no reason to talk about where they came from. Fast forward to today. Periodically an egg emerges. In 2014, a Fabergé egg appeared at a London auction house, one that had been missing since the 1920s. The buyer paid millions. Nobody asked difficult questions about provenance. Why would they? The price was the point. The egg's value lay partly in its beauty, and partly in the fact that someone had been willing to spend that much on it. Here's what the missing imperial eggs reveal about wealth. It's not just about ownership. It's about the power to disappear. A billionaire can own something, keep it private, never show it, and the world has no way of knowing. The egg doesn't need to be on display to have value. It needs to exist, and for the owner to know it exists, and for that knowledge to be worth whatever they paid. The Soviets understood this perfectly. They weren't trying to preserve imperial heritage. They were converting political power into financial power. Every egg sold was a transaction, a piece of the old world converted into currency for the new one. The buyers understood it too. They weren't historians. They were investors betting that rarity and price would compound together. So where are the missing eggs now? Some are in private collections, you'll never see them. Some might have been melted down for their materials. Some might still be in Soviet-era archives, never catalogued, forgotten. And some might be sitting in a Manhattan penthouse or a Swiss vault, owned by someone who never talks about it and has no reason to. The real answer to the mystery is simpler than treasure hunters want to admit. The eggs didn't vanish. They were redistributed. From imperial hands to revolutionary hands to capitalist hands. Each transition happened because someone had the power to make it happen. The eggs followed wealth, and wealth follows power. What the missing imperial eggs tell us is that the most valuable assets in the world aren't always the ones you can see. They're the ones people have paid enormous sums to keep private. A Fabergé egg in a museum is worth millions. A Fabergé egg in a private vault is worth whatever someone will pay to own something that nobody else can see. And that price, historically, has been higher. The mystery of the missing imperial eggs isn't unsolved. It's just unresolved, and deliberately so. The people who own them have no incentive to solve it. The governments that sold them have no incentive to acknowledge it. And the historical record, conveniently, doesn't require them to. Which is exactly how the wealthiest prefer to operate. The Fabergé eggs that exist today in museums in documented collections are worth tens of millions collectively. The eggs that don't exist in any public record might be worth far more. That gap between the known and the hidden, between the displayed and the private, is where real wealth lives. And that's a story no auction house will ever fully tell. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe for more untold stories of how wealth moves through history. There's a new case every week. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.